What's up guys, my name is Ace, and so far with Black Ops 7, we've just been talking about the things that they have officially revealed. However, today I wanted to focus on something that is very clearly missing from the reveal of Black Ops 7, and for many, this is a very key part of the game for them. This is the strike maps that are used for Faceoff as well as Gunfight. This is those really tiny maps that many people love to grind 24/7. And within the reveal, they consistently mentioned there would be 16 6v6 maps, 3 of which are remade maps, 13 are brand new, and then there's going to be 2 20v20 maps for the skirmish mode. Outside of that, there has been zero mention of face-off maps, which is a bit strange. If we're expecting those maps to be coming to the game, you would think they'd be advertising those as early as possible. So this leads me to believe that there will be no strike maps or no face-off, no gunfight in Black Ops 7, at least at launch. And I am quite surprised to see this because as much as I personally generally stay away from playing face-off, at the end of the day, these tiny map experiences appear to be very popular in the community. In fact, I know there are a lot of people out there that exclusively play Face-Off or even exclusively play one tiny map all year round. Like in the case of Black Ops 6, they'll play Stakeout 24/7 non-stop, and that's the only map they will play, which I personally find to be insane, but there are people that do that. And to those people, those tiny map 24/7 experiences, that's the game to them. That is the entire game. And it's not just with Black Ops 6. We see this in the past with like Shipment 24/7. You'd have people that just play Shipment all the time, or Nuketown 24/7, or whatever the equivalent is. And the reason that many people gravitate toward these maps is simply because it's the best place to be grinding for challenges, especially camo challenges. It just offers the most amount of gunfights in the shortest period of time, so you can grind through those very quickly. Additionally though, for some people, they just like the mindless chaos. They just like hitting respawn and finding a gunfight within 2 seconds consistently. And that's really all they want to do. They just want to shut their brain off and just shoot things, respawn, and not really have to think much beyond that. And I do think Face-Off does provide a nice place for those players to go that separates them from regular matchmaking. I also like the fact that Face-Off eliminates score streaks from the equation, because if you are playing those ridiculously tiny maps like that, score streaks are way overkill, and most people are in there to just grind camos, for instance, or just get into gunfights, so it really puts the focus on that gun-on-gun action. And then on top of that, that's not mentioning Gunfight. Gunfight also takes place on these tiny maps, and it's not so much the mindless chaos, this is more of the 2v2 tactical experience, and without these tiny strike maps, we're not likely going to be seeing Gunfight as well. So on one hand, I definitely think it's strange that they're not including this in Black Ops 7, at least as far as we can tell, and I do think that will upset quite a few people. However, on the other hand, I do think the inclusion of modes like this, where you have these 24/7 chaotic tiny map offerings, rather than like special limited time events or playlists, I do think over the years, looking at the big picture of Call of Duty, this has done harm to the franchise. Now, I totally get why the devs moved in that direction over the years and started offering this to players, because I'm sure they had tons of data showing that people flock to these modes when available. I remember way back in the day, you'd have these special like double XP plus Nuketown 24/7 weekends, and that was a big deal. People would make sure that they could get on during those times and really just grind that out because it was a special limited time thing. So over the years, I'm sure they noticed that people just love playing this, so they started offering more and more of this. And it started to become just a staple of the game to have modes like this available 24/7. In saying that, like I said, I think this has come with some unforeseen consequences, long-term and big picture for the franchise. And I do want to talk about some of the cons of having this available. And the big general con with this is it primes players to expect 100% action with zero downtime once they end up playing these modes a bit, and therefore the rest of the game outside of those tiny modes for a lot of players, it becomes boring because you're not going to get a gunfight every 2 or 3 seconds. Which is crazy because 6v6 Call of Duty is still quite a fast-paced shooter compared to most shooters on the market. But for these people that just grind these tiny maps 24/7, that's slow to them. And as a result, for many of those players, they fall into that trap of only wanting to play these tiny chaotic modes because everything else is boring, and they end up getting sort of addicted to just playing those modes, and therefore they only ever experience a tiny portion of what multiplayer has to offer throughout the year, including all of the variety that comes with that, with some longer engagement distances and some room to actually make some interesting plays, for instance, rather than just a meat grinder. And I do think for a lot of these players, it leads to much faster burnout, obviously. If they're just playing this very, very limited portion of the game, that's going to burn people out very, very quickly. Additionally, there's an argument that having these modes available 24/7, it throws off the overall grinding experience. Now, many people don't care about this, but some do, and I think it is at least a valid point to bring up. Grinding camos in this mode 24/7, for instance, feels like a shortcut compared to grinding all of the mastery camos out in the wider multiplayer experience, like the regular core 6v6 experience. And with these being available 24/7, this can also make it so if you are grinding camos or other challenges in the regular core modes, it can make it feel painfully slow compared to these shortcut modes that allow you to do it much faster. And I think that can also lead to a lot of frustration with these people and make them feel like they have to play these tiny modes so they can efficiently get the camos that they're trying to unlock, which just further enforces that feeling of being trapped in those modes. I know it's a self-imposed trap, but it's a trap nonetheless that many fall into. And looking deeper into that, I think this goes along with a very harmful mindset that has really grown, especially in recent years in the community, and that is that Call of Duty isn't necessarily about enjoying the gameplay experience, it's about completing the grind. A lot of people just buy Call of Duty because they've gotten into the habit of needing to complete that mastery camo grind every single year. And that is their goal. That is the whole reason they're playing. Even if they're hating every second of the gameplay experience, it doesn't matter. They've got to check those boxes and they've got to get that mastery camo every year. And I think offering these modes 24/7 has really fed into this mindset, because I know many people end up playing these modes, not because they enjoy the process of playing these modes, but they just play them because it's the most efficient way to reach their end goal. They don't really care about the process or the journey or the experiences that they have along the way. They just want to get to their end goal as quickly as possible. And I think that also leads to a lot of burnout and also, like I said, just a harmful mindset in general where they're not approaching the game thinking about how they can have the best experience possible. They're only approaching it with the mindset of how can I complete my chores as quickly as possible. And for many of these players, they will grind these modes so hard that they'll get that mastery camo, which is like the end game goal for the game, within like a month or sometimes even less. And then immediately after they unlock it, they wonder, why did the game just get so boring? Like, why am I not enjoying myself anymore? Well, probably because you burnt yourself out so hard playing these mindless meat grinders and not really enjoying the process at all. So now when you think about playing the game without that goal in mind of getting your mastery camos, it seems a whole lot less appealing to you. And I think that's a huge factor as well that has really contributed to these modes having a very negative impact on the franchise overall. However, there's also one last note I want to make here. This is definitely the smallest out of all these notes, but it is a factor as well that I kind of don't like about offering these tiny maps 24/7. And that is, it can throw off expectations for balancing weapons and other gear in the game. Like just one example here, shotgun balance. If you balance the shotguns in the game to be pretty decent for like the regular core 6v6 experience, that probably means they're going to be totally overpowered on a map like Stakeout 24/7. And therefore, in order to find some balance between the two, they have to keep those shotguns really in check, and therefore the shotguns become kind of useless in regular 6v6. And that's just one example. This also comes into play when it comes to like perks and equipment, for instance. I do think it can throw off the balancing experiences because people have expectations that the game will be balanced around these tiny modes rather than the general core 6v6 experience. So overall, circling back to the fact that it looks like we're not going to be seeing a mode like Faceoff in Black Ops 7, at least at launch, perhaps this would be a healthy move overall for the franchise. However, unfortunately, I think it's kind of hard to put the cat back in the bag. And I do think not including this is going to upset a lot of players that have come to expect this because it's been offered so much every single year for so long. And like I said earlier, for many of these players, that's what Call of Duty is to them. They don't even play the rest of the Call of Duty experience because it's too slow and boring for them. So this could push them away entirely. Now, in saying that, there is one big factor to consider here, and this is Nuketown. While we aren't expecting to see Nuketown at launch for Black Ops 7, that's normal for a Black Ops game. Usually, Nuketown comes like 2 or 3 weeks after launch for a Black Ops game, and I suspect it'll be no different with Black Ops 7. It would be very strange to not have Nuketown in this game, especially shortly after launch. So I fully expect that to be coming, even though it hasn't been officially confirmed at this point. And I would be surprised if they didn't offer a Nuketown 24/7 playlist. So while they might not have Face-Off in the game, I do think those players that are looking for that constant 24/7 chaos, they're still going to have Nuketown available to them. And looking deeper into just my personal opinions on this, like I said, I don't really play Face-Off all that much. And over the years, I've always thought, like, it's nice. It's nice to provide that to those players that are looking for that, but it's not something I'm interested in. Perhaps by cutting that experience out of the equation, that will put more focus on the standard core 6v6 experience that I personally love. And so maybe a little bit selfishly, I think this could be good for the regular core 6v6 experience in Black Ops 7 as well, where they can really focus their attention and resources on supporting that mode and content for that mode. But that's pretty much everything I wanted to say in this video regarding this topic, and this is where I want to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How are you feeling about the fact that, at least as far as we can tell, there will be no Face-Off playlist and apparently no gunfight as well, at least at launch with Black Ops 7? Do you guys think this would be a good move overall for the game, a bad move? Just let me know all of the thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.